Awesome. Okay, we're recording. Sweet. So today, guys, we are going to be talking about a project that we're going to be working on together as a class. And I know we've mentioned this a little bit in the past, but I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a heads up as to kind of the future of this DevDelta course and what we're hoping to do with it. So my plan at this point, and this is something that is not set in stone, it can evolve and change depending on what you guys want to do. But what I'd like to do is have us all working on a project, on a specific product that we will be able to contribute to over time and add features to and improve upon and use what is demanded of us from the product that we're building to then learn more pieces of JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. I think that that's going to be a more hands-on way that will allow us to remember these things better if we're actually working together on something and we have a reason to apply the things that we're learning. So that's the reason we're going to be moving forward with project-based learning. It's also going to allow us to contribute to open source software, to build things together as a team. We're going to deal with merge conflicts. We're going to deal with rebasing. We're going to learn a lot about Git and different parts of the actual workflow in a real work environment that is usually missed in a classroom environment. So hopefully we can kind of bridge that gap by using a project. The project that we're going to work on is something called Halogen, which is an app name that I made up. And all of this is just a mock-up. So none of this is an actual website or there's no code or anything here. This is all just design. So it's called Halogen. And basically the idea is if you are on a video call and you want to adjust the lighting on your face, and I know we talked about this a little bit before, but I figure I might as well just give the quick pitch one more time. Basically, this app will hopefully allow you to pull up different colors and different like circles and designs and gradients on different screens that you have that can then bounce light off your face to make you look, better in your video calls, or to adjust for different things. Like if you're in a really dark room, you might want a yellow light, or depending on your complexion and your skin tone, you might want like a purple or a yellow. So it's a really, really simple idea, but hopefully it has some use. And I chose this idea because it's very extensible in the sense that we can start with a really small app that is definitely simple and actually doesn't require much more knowledge than we already have from what we've learned in this class so far. And then we can make that grow and we can add features on top of it to really make it more robust, and also things that will push us to learn different parts of the language. So I think that this will kind of satisfy all those things. And I'll just scroll through the mockup really quick. So first, so we have a nav bar at the top here that's going to have a menu and a button for try it out. We're going to have a logo. This will be an image. And then we're going to have these three little pieces. These are also going to be images. We're going to have a little call to action, have some text here. We're going to be including some fonts. There's also a gradient on this gray background back here. And then this is a placeholder image. And then this is going to be some CSS. So we're going to have a placeholder image. And when we actually do like the website, we're going to make sure that this is reflective of somebody actually using the app, but we don't have a prototype yet. So this is just put here for placeholder purposes. And this will be a little toggle button that you can click on that will then basically show a user at a computer without Halogen and then with Halogen, and how like it reflects off their face, and you can just make yourself look better. So we'll probably have somebody with a decent camera help out to take a picture of before and afters here. And then this toggle will basically just switch back and forth between those two images. And on the right-hand side, we just have a kind of a mock-up idea of what that color scheme might have looked like. So this is going to be some CSS to make some circles, do some background colors. Once again, some more gradient. We're going to have some nested divs here. And then we have another section, and this is the actual UI for the app itself. That you'll be able to click this button and go full screen on. And then we're going to have a little color picker. We're going to have some options for how we change these color rings in the center, different kinds of gradients, split colors, things like that, clearing everything out. And then you can go back to the site when you click that exit full screen mode. So this is where a majority of the work is going to be. This is where most of the JavaScript and the logic is going to happen, is inside of this app here. So for starters, we're not going to worry too much about getting too knee deep with all of the features that we could add to this this portion, we're basically just going to start with this view where we were going to get the circles in there. We're not even going to worry about the color picker, this menu right off the bat. We're just going to get this set up as a website, or it kind of looks like this, and maybe try to tackle this full screen mode. And then we'll move on to more stories in the future that we can add stuff to. And then at the bottom, this last section is a little carousel where we're basically going to have presets and like predefined palettes of colors that are complementary to, you know, different lighting situations or setups or whatever. So this will allow us, this in particular is going to kind of drive our learning towards arrays and iteration and looping. So that will be something that we can have some hands-on learning as soon as we learn those parts of JavaScript. And then lastly, we have a footer down here that will allow us to exercise some semantic HTML, add in some text, has a specific font, little emoji in there, and some icons that will do some anchor tags for hyperlinks. So this is the project we're going to be working on. I just wanted to give you guys a quick rundown of it. And we're going to talk about how we're going to work on this together really quickly here. But one of the things you'll notice is this is going to be pretty CSS heavy right here at the beginning. So we're going to kind of use this opportunity to go back and do a little bit of recap over some of the CSS we've learned in HTML, and then also implement a couple new things as well. So today what we're going to talk about is something called Flexbox. Flexbox is a CSS display property that allows us to arrange things and get things centered and moved around. And it's really difficult to center stuff and get things positioned where you want them without Flexbox. And it's widely supported across most browsers, and it's definitely a common technology to use. So I think it'll be handy to go over just the basics of Flexbox this morning, and then we can start looking at actually implementing what we've learned there in the first steps of this project together. So cool. So if you guys have that URL pulled up for Flexbox, does anybody not have this Flexbox intro repository pulled up in GitHub? That I sent in Slack in the general channel. Okay, cool. So if we can get this repository pulled up, we're gonna go ahead and click on the code button, and we're gonna do a clone. You can leave it at HTTPS, that's fine. I click this little copy here to copy this URL. We're gonna open our terminal. Remember, a quick way to get there is Command space to go Spotlight, and you can type terminal to open up your terminal. I already had mine open here, but that's a nice quick way to get there. And then I already had this repo here, but basically what you're gonna do, sorry, don't follow along with this part. I already had that directory pulled down, but I wanted to get it set here. So if you have a space created, a directory created for Dev Delta, what you're gonna wanna do is change directory into that. It could be called temp, or maybe just development, or whatever you've named it. Let's go ahead and change directories into that directory. And now once you're inside of here, this is where we're going to want to clone down this Flexbox repository. So we're going to type git space clone, and then we're going to paste in the URL that we just copied from Chrome. And when we hit enter here, it's going to create that directory, create that repository, and pull all of the code down. So now we can change directory into that again. And before we do that, we can actually type list to see it. So we see Flexbox intro listed as a repository after we've run that git clone. So let's go ahead and change directory into that. Okay, then once we're inside of that, type ls one more time, and you should see two files. You should see an index.html and a styles.css. So these two guys are preloaded with some code that will help us kind of grasp the concepts of Flexbox a little easier, I think. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and type code dot, and this should open VSCode to this directory. Great. And if that did not work, once again, we've gone over this a couple times in the past, but if that didn't work for you guys and you got an error saying code command not found, then you're gonna wanna go ahead and open VS Code manually. Just click on the icon and you're gonna hit Command P to open the command palette. Okay, and then you're gonna hit right bracket, and you're gonna type that first one, shell command, install code command and path. And then once you click on that, it should work afterwards. And then you can close VS Code and run that code dot command once again. Okay, cool. So let's zoom in here a little bit so that this font size is big enough for you. And we're going to go ahead and click on index.html to open this up. If you see that it's italicized up here, you can double click on it and that will keep the tab open here. And then we're going to do the same thing with styles, double click on it to keep it open. And we're actually going to try to split these so that we can see both files at the same time. So click on styles.css and you're going to hit command pipe. Pipe is the character right above return. It's also the backslash. So if you hit command backslash or command pipe, that will duplicate this tab into a separate little window here that you can adjust. So let's do that. And then once you've done that, you can actually close this one, or you can just leave it open and switch back over to HTML. So once you have this open, let's go ahead and go back to our terminal really quickly. And we are going to want to open up our index.html file so we can see these changes in the browser. So we're going to type open index.html. Now, when you do this, you should see this pop up. Now, if you don't see that, go ahead and just holler at me. Just stop me if you guys need a second or need to go back to cover anything again. Now on this web page, we're going to right click, we're going to click inspect, and this is going to open our developer tools. Shortcut to do this is Command Option J. I believe that should work for everybody. I don't think that's a custom one that I have set up. Command Option J, or if that doesn't work, just right click inspect. So we're going to open up our developer tools. And we're going to be on the elements tab here. And we're going to use this HTML file to learn about the display property of elements within HTML. Now, the reason we're talking about display properties, I know that we're talking about Flexbox here, is that Flexbox is itself a display property of different elements on the page within HTML. So let's go ahead and in our browser, let's go ahead and investigate some of these existing elements that we have here. So if we click this little arrow inside of the box, which allows us to select an element in the page to inspect it, it's going to turn blue, and then we can kind of hover over here and see different things get highlighted and see information on the right-hand side change. So let's go ahead and start with our very first one, this heading level 3 element. So when we click on it, you're going to see this get highlighted in the elements panel over here. And as you hover over it here, you can actually see it highlighted on the left-hand side as well. So we see that this is an H3 element. Now, the part that I'm interested in and that we want to look at is the display property of it. So to do that, we're going to click over here on a tab called computed. And if you don't have enough space over here, go ahead and just pull this window open like about halfway so that you can see everything going on over here. This is the most important part we're going to be looking at. So go ahead and click on computed. And what this means, this computed tab, this basically means that it's going to show you some styles and things that have been added over here that didn't necessarily come from your style sheet. So anything that's a default or something that came specifically from the browser, maybe, some of those things are going to show up here in the computed tab. So this is basically just extra information that's details about this element, even if it didn't come from your style sheet. So under computed, we can see here that we have a display type of block. Interesting. Okay, we're going to learn more about what that means in a second, but I just wanted you guys to be able to navigate to where we find how an element is being displayed. So let's go ahead and take a look at this second one. So we have a block paragraph element. It says, I'm a block paragraph element. See, it's a P. We see that's also display block. Okay, cool. Let's choose one more really quick. Let's do this inline span. And now we see display inline. Okay, cool. So we can see how these things are actually changing depending on which one we select. Great. Okay, let's go back and just select our first one. And we're going to make some changes here. So let's go back over to our VSCode. And remember, you can use just Command Tab to toggle between different apps. That's a nice quick way to do that. So over here, what we're going to do is we're basically just going to add to our CSS some background colors to take a look at what this element actually looks like. Background color is a great way to do this when we're debugging, because it's going to highlight the entire element, whatever the whole box that element is, and what it's the space that it's taking up. So background color is a great tool for debugging this kind of stuff. So what we're going to do is go ahead and uncomment that first line inside of that H3, that H3 styling rule. And you're going to do that with command /. That's our comment shortcut, command / or command ? And that will toggle back and forth. So go ahead and bring this out so that it's no longer a comment. And that's going to say background color light blue. If you don't have automatic saving turned on, hit Command S to save. Now let's go back over to the browser, refresh really quick. And you should see that 2 pieces get added with a blue background. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Anybody lagging? Cool. Like I said, just yell and stop me if you need help with anything.
I am a little bit behind, but I'm trying to catch up. I forgot that I had git bash on here, so I was able to use that to pull everything down. I forgot about that.
Sweet.
But
awesome.
I think I'm here. So I just got Flexbox. I just downloaded that and I got the index and the style. So what do I need to do with the style then?
So just open index.html and the style sheet. I like to split them this way so that you can see both at the same time.
How do
you totally don't have to do that. So you do that. Are you in VSCode?
Yep.
Okay, great. So the way you're going to do that is by just clicking on the tab that says styles.css, and you're going to hit command pipe or command /. That's the key right above return.
Okay.
Great, cool. And then in your terminal, go ahead and type open index.html, and that will open your index.html in the browser.
Yes, sir.
Cool. And then you should see the file protocol, your name, and then index.html. And then within here, just open the developer tools in Chrome and navigate to the elements tab.
Okay, so I'll have to figure that out because it's a different command for Windows, but I'll figure it out. Okay, thank you.
Open.
Yeah, it's being kind of, or maybe it just says it's not found. So
can you navigate to that file with your, with the GUI and then like double click on it, or just right click on it to open it?
Yeah, do that. I'll do that real quick.
Okay.
Sorry for the pause. Thank you.
No. Oh, no. That's what we're here for. And then, yeah, like I said, go ahead and open the developer tools, and you're going to go to the elements tab, and then we're going to you should be able to just follow along from there for what we're looking at. We'll be doing this for a bit. Okay.
Yeah, hurry up, Sean.
Let's go back over to VS Code. So now let's go ahead and copy this background color property, because we're going to be doing background colors on all of these guys. Okay, so we added a background color to our H3, and we saw that it spanned the whole width of this window here. So like if you were to readjust this, you see that blue color keeps going. So this is giving us a hint as to what display block does, is that it takes up the entire width of the window. It takes up the entire width that it can take up here. And then we notice that the next element, the paragraph element, that gets pushed down onto a new line here. Now, let's go ahead and add another background color to the paragraph element. So let's do background color light. I like doing the light colors because it's just a little easier on the eyes. Let's do light coral. Cool. And then when you start typing in there, you should be able to get a little bit of a preview. So let's paste one down here for span as well. Let's do light goldenrod yellow. Sweet. All right, let's do one for div. So basically, we're just going through here and we're just adding background colors to everything and just make sure that they have different colors. Let's do light pink. We're going to give one to the A tag. We're going to do light green. Give one to the image tag. We're going to do light, light sea green. Very fun. Button. Background color is going to be light. And click our last one. We're going to do background color. Light. Slate gray. Cool. Okay, great. So basically we just added a bunch of background colors to all of these properties here. So, and remember that these are the CSS rules. They're going to be targeting the tags themselves. So this targets all of the H3 tags. This targets all the paragraph tags, all the spans, divs, A tags, image tags, button, and input. And over here, we can see that we have these guys. There's some comments in here that, that give us a little bit of information as well as to what's going on. Everything that we're looking at is happening inside of the body tag. You don't need to worry about anything outside of the body tag. So in here, we're looking at, first of all, we have a chunk of elements that are naturally display block. When I say naturally, I mean that their styling out of the box from HTML and CSS is specifically laid out a certain way. So when you create any kind of heading element, it's automatically displayed as a block element. When you create any span or any image tag, it is automatically displayed as an inline element. It's display inline. And then if you create a button or an input, those are automatically inline dash block, which is another type. And we're going to see how that works by looking at what our highlights over here did. Okay, so let's go check this out and see. So refresh our web page now that we've made those color changes, and we should see a bunch of colors popping up here. So if we look over here, let's actually look at, actually, you know, this is enough for us to kind of see what's going on. So up here we have our block elements, display block. So notice that all of these have a full width. So the background color went the full width. And it doesn't really matter if they're paragraph elements or div elements, because these guys are automatically displayed this way. Sorry, it does matter if they're paragraphs or divs, but paragraph and div are both display block, which just means that they go the whole entire width, and that they have basically a new line. So at the end of a block level element, it's like kind of a return, like a new line, or a line break is another word for it, which means that content will just be underneath it or above it. Even if you put the tags right next to each other, because they're display block, they naturally take up the full width, and then they push content below it or above it. So that's what display block looks like. Then down here, we have our inline guys. And if you notice, all of our inline guys are right next to each other. So I'm an inline span element. This one's also an inline span. And we can see over here, if you are on your elements tab, you can see where these guys are coming from. So they're coming from right here. So these spans are all stacked right next to each other. And that's because they are display inline. The difference between inline and block, as we can see with our background colors here, is that inline does not put a new line. It does not return to a new line after each element. So even though these elements are, you know, visually stacked on top of each other in the HTML, that doesn't really matter, because the way that they are rendered to the page depends on their display property, not how they look in the HTML. So hopefully that makes sense. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay.
No.
Cool. Sweet. So great. So we can see that there's different kinds. You know, a lot of times people just think about span as the inline element, but there are others. So the anchor tag, image tag, and there's a few other more obscure ones that are as well. So these guys all end up just right next to each other. And that's the most important part to keep in mind right now, and part is that block level elements span the full width, and then inline elements don't create a new line, and they only take up how much space they need for their content. Great, cool. There are a couple other things, a couple other pieces styling wise that are affected by display inline and inline block, particularly that the margin and padding, which we haven't talked a ton about margin and padding yet, but if it is display inline, these will not accept a margin above or below them. So if you try to push content up or push content below it using a margin, that actually won't work on an inline element, because inline elements they're pretty much created to, I think that the way you want to use them primarily is for text. So if you have like a piece of text that you want to style a different way, but you want it to fall inside of the flow of a document or in the flow of a paragraph, you would want that to be inline, because you don't want it to push the text up above or below it. You want it to look like it's still a part of this paragraph. So above and below margin and padding doesn't affect an inline element. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, cool. And then down here we see we have a couple elements that are display inline dash block. Now, these guys actually fall right next to each other, and they look like they might be the same as inline, because we don't really see much difference other than the fact that it's a button and an input. They're just different types of HTML elements. But what makes inline block different than inline is that these guys can accept margin and padding above and below that will push content up and push content down. If that doesn't make a whole lot of sense right now, it's okay. It's not a huge deal. I basically just want you guys to understand that every single element has a default display and that they vary. And the difference between inline and block are probably the most important things to pay attention to right now. But there is something called inline block, and that allows it to not have a new line, but then it can be styled similar to the block element with padding above and below, margin and padding above and below. Okay, now the last thing we have here in this little example before we start talking about Flexbox is that you can actually change and override elements to be displayed different ways. So let's click on the span element here. So a span, as we know, by default, is displayed inline. Spans are normally displayed inline. Sorry, let me zoom in here a little bit. Okay, so spans are by default inline. We can see that here. So if we click on this guy, we see that it is display inline. Now, down here, we use some styling to override this span. Instead of being display inline like it naturally is, we said, hey, let's make you display block. So if we convert a span to be display block, we see it takes up the full width, much like these div elements up here and the header elements. This is a span made to be display block, and we see that over here, but with display block coming from our CSS. So if we go over to computer, we see now that it's display is block. And then we also have a div that is normally block that we have set up to be displayed inline. Cool. We see that that's displayed inline. And we have a heading level 3 that is normally block that we see up here. And we actually forced him to be displayed inline block. So you can alter the way that things are presented. Display is a property you can personally add in your HTML or in your CSS to style things differently if you need to. The one note that I have on this is that generally you want to avoid that if you can, just because you're not really using HTML in the way that it's intended to be used if you're doing that. So if you're using a div, but you want it to fall nicely inside of a piece of inside of a paragraph, and you make it display in line, and then you're forcing some of the other styles on it, you probably just should have used a span in the first place. So if you find yourself overriding these values, yeah, go ahead.
So maybe I missed something. I probably did, but I'm trying to understand. So how did we change that again? Because you said we made it something different, right?
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of this is already coming from the document. So let's go back over here and take a look at this really quick. Sorry, yeah, I probably should have looked at this with you guys.
So you mean by just adding like the background color, we change, or do we do the display stuff too? Okay, that's what I missed.
Yeah, we did this as well. So yeah, let's come look at this. So these guys already have their background colors on them, but let's go ahead and open this up. This is probably how we should have done this to see how this changes a little bit. Go ahead and go into VSCode into your styles.css. And we're going to jump down to where we see span.different, div.different, h3.different. And let's go ahead and comment these display types out, these display selectors. And now if we go back over to our page and we refresh. All right, so we see these guys that the text inside still says that they're made to be a certain way, but now we've reset them to their natural state. So this is a span and it is inline, and this is a div and it is block. And you can see the colors kind of correspond, so maybe that visually helps. And then this is a heading and this is block like normal. Now, if we go back to our code and let's start with just the span. So we are going to add the property display block to the span.different one with a span with a class of different one, which we set over here. And then if we refresh the page, we're going to see that the span is going to change to be display block. And then we see that background color change because we changed how it's displayed. And then if we go back to our VSCode and we change different to and refresh the page, we see that that is now displayed inline because we changed its display property. And then finally, we're going to do our H3 to become inline block, save, refresh. We see that that becomes inline block. So this is just a simple example to show that you can change the display property of an element and that you can visually see how it's changing by using the background color property. So when you're developing, I highly recommend using borders and background colors when you're building layouts in your pages, because it really helps you visualize things, because otherwise everything's just kind of, the boxes are invisible. So if you make something 500 pixels wide, but you don't give it any color or background, or any border or background color, then you won't really be able to see where the edge of it is or where it ends. So these are really helpful things to use for when you're blocking out content and you're building your HTML and pages and using CSS. Okay. So you have a quick note in here talking about how it isn't always a great thing to do because you want to use the right semantic HTML tag for the job. And again, semantic just means that its name is indicative of what it does, basically. So, and it also helps with screen readers and with SEO. Okay, sweet. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea that there are display properties that come naturally with our HTML and our CSS. And Flex is another type of display. So we're going to look at Flex really quick. And yeah, scroll down to the bottom of the styles.css file and look at this first one, .container. So I have commented out all of the properties that utilize Flexbox, just because I wanted to, I want us to look at these as they are before we use Flex. So in our browser, if we go back over here, we have this orange background. I'm a div displayed with Flex. And then we have a box, a div, and it says, and then a p tag says I'm a p tag inside of a Flex div. And then these guys are divs inside of a Flex div. And then we have some nested paragraph tags inside of a div that's inside of this big blue box here. So visually, what is laid out here kind of represents what you can see in your HTML. If we go back over. So really focus on these chunks here when we go back underneath Flexbox time. You can kind of see how these are all laid out here. We have some nested pieces, divs, paragraph tags. And what we're going to do is we are going to use the display property of Flex to be able to center these vertically and center them horizontally and kind of arrange things however we want. And now this is something that is generally really difficult to do in CSS. But Flexbox came around with CSS3 and it really simplified the process of centering and arranging elements on a page together. So we're going to go ahead and use these properties to take a look at how this works. And if you want, you can delete the comments here and type this out yourself if you feel like you're able to kind of learn that a little bit more. So what we're going to do is we're going to add on the container, we're going to add a property, a display property. So if you type display here and then colon, you're actually going to see, and before you hit space, so if you just hit colon and then without a space, you're going to see VSCode give you suggestions of different ways that you can display things. And we see block, and then we see inline block, and we also see Flex. So we see that, there are other ones that we talked about, and most of these you can ignore, especially the ones that start with Moz or MS. These are browser specific for Mozilla, Firefox, and Microsoft, and WebKit, which is Safari. So you don't need to worry about those guys. And there's a lot of other ones, but these are the 99% of the time you're going to see stuff displayed with block, inline block, Flex, and inline. So let's go ahead and type Flex, display Flex, and go ahead and save that. And let's go back over here to our browser and refresh the page. So you'll notice that nothing changed on this div visually. But let's go ahead and click our little inspecty dude and let's look at it. So if you click on that, we see over here, if you're on the styles tab, and this is showing what's coming from our own style sheets, we're seeing that it was previously display block, and then it was overridden with this value of display flex. So this is a different display property, even though it visually looks very similar to display block. And what this is going to give us a benefit for is some other properties we can add to actually start manipulating content inside of it. So let's do that. So in container 2 is where we're going to actually start manipulating stuff. So let's add a display flex property to this. And we are going to add 2 other properties, justify content and align items. So these are the 2 most important things that go alongside Flexbox. And I want you guys to just hold on to these and save this file somewhere so that you can copy this kind of stuff if you need to. Sorry, I got something in the chat. Travis, no worries, man. Let me know if you have any questions after you look at the recording of this. Okay, cool. So we're gonna add two properties. We're going to add align items. And we're going to put the center as the value here. And then underneath that, we're going to add one last property called justify content. And that might even autocomplete for you. Justify content. And we're also going to throw center on this. So basically, this is saying anything inside of this element, give it, put it in the center horizontally and put it in the center vertically. So once we do that, let's go take a look. So what we're altering is this, right? So we're adding flex properties to this big square div here that we put, that it previously had width. So it was width 300, height 300, have a border. And then this is the important part that we did: display flex, align items, justify content. And now let's refresh our page and see what happens. Okay, pretty sweet. So we actually were able to center this. Now, if we inspect this guy, we see that it is the container 2, which is the parent, that is actually doing the centering of all the content inside of it. So if we go ahead and click on this guy, you can use the developer tools here to uncheck some of these properties to turn them on and off, which is kind of cool. So if we remove align items center, you see it move and pop up to the top, and you see that the whole content takes up the entire space here. So you can see some interesting things change as you turn these on and off. So this is some of the power of Flexbox. These three properties, display flex, align item center, justify content center, are super powerful and really, really nice. And those are that's something good to keep in your brain. So lastly, we're going to go ahead and look at an example on this container 3, which has a bunch of nested elements. So container 3 has 4 children. It has 3 divs that have well, they just have some text content. And then we have a 4th div with a class that has its own paragraph elements, its own content inside of it, or its own elements inside of it. So this has 3 nested paragraphs inside of it, these nested Ps. And the way that looks is we see the regular content, and then we see this div has its own nested content inside of it. So let's see what happens when we throw some Flexbox stuff on this guy. So we're going to do display flex. We are going to do align items center. We're going to do justify content center. You can even copy and paste from above if you like. And let's see what that did. Okay, so we see that some stuff got centered, some stuff didn't get centered. It definitely moved things around. So you'll notice here that everything is horizontal by default now, which is different than it was before. Before it was kind of lined up in a column. And this is a property that we can set in Flexbox that allows us to say we want things in a column or in a row. So row or column are the 2 ways you can set things up with Flexbox. By default, it's going to give you a row. So what you can do is you can just say flex direction column. And go ahead and save that and refresh, and you're going to see that it pops centered down into a column. Pretty sweet. And I know that these are new style attributes that we're learning here. These are new properties that we're learning. The syntax should be familiar as a property as part of the rule here, but the actual attributes are different. But these are the important, the ones we're going to look at today, which is display flex, align items, justify content, flex directions. Those are the only ones that you'll really need to know off the top of your heads, and you're going to use these a lot. So hopefully they kind of stick in your brain. So go ahead and just copy them for now, and then go back and reference this file as you need when you're working on projects in the future. So we got flex direction column. We saw some stuff change. Pretty sweet. If we do row, it's going to go back to how it looked before. And that is because this is just by default the way that it renders. So even though we didn't say flex direction row, that is the default direction for flex if you don't specify it. But let's say we want column. Let's put it back to how it was with column. Cool. Okay. So we see how we can adjust this stuff, but you'll notice that these guys aren't centered, these nested P tags. And let's say we wanted these to be centered and we want these guys in a row, not a column. So what we can do here is we need to actually use flex on the nested container. So display flex it doesn't affect everything all inside of something nested. It affects its direct children. So these are its first children here. And we notice that the container itself is centered, but the container's children are not. So let's go ahead and throw some flex properties on the container that's in the nested container. So down here, we are targeting nested container with a class container3 and then a space, which this is the syntax for basically nested elements, and then nested container. And then inside of here, we have a width property that we don't need to worry about, but we are gonna add the display flex property and refresh the page, see if anything changes. Okay, so that does change. So display flex, put these guys right next to each other. So this changed how these are being laid out. So these elements are display block, which is fine as before. Let's see what, actually, I'm curious to see what those were displayed as before. I think those should be, they're still display block, but they naturally take up the full width. Because remember, the block level elements take up the full width of their parent, their container, as far as they can go. And that's as wide as this paragraph tag can go. So as soon as we throw display flex on top of the nested container, the parent of these p tags, we see that they're actually stacked next to each other, but they're still display block. And if this was a question in your mind, this is how you answer that. You use the developer tools to click on them and look and say, okay, those look like they're maybe display inline, but no, they're still block. It's just that flex has forced them to be this width because of what we want to do with them moving forward. Cool. So we have display flex, and let's delete that column one. And we do want to center them though. So let's do, and we'll type that out together. We'll do justify content, center. Refresh the page. Cool. So we see that we actually got these guys to center here in the middle now. So now we have these centered because we put a justify content attribute onto the nested container itself that is now display flex. So we had to put this on that nested container as well. Now, a line item center is going to do these vertically. It looks like they're pretty much already aligned vertically, but we can throw that attribute on there anyway, or that property on there anyway. Nothing really changed because they were already there. And we got those guys going. Now, if we wanted to, we could make this a column as well. So if we added that property in here and we said flex direction column, that's just going to take all of those guys and put them into a column, but they're still going to be centered, which is pretty rad. So that is the power of Flexbox. I want you guys to save this file. Did you guys, did I have you fork this or did you guys just directly clone it?
I just cloned it.
I just cloned it.
Okay, cool. Sweet, that's fine. So most importantly though, I want you guys to keep this somewhere and use this file as a reference of how Flexbox works. Because you're not gonna, I don't expect you to have all these things memorized, but there are some notes in here that should help. And most importantly, just seeing the properties and then being able to change them to see how they change what actually shows up on the page is the best way to learn this. And some of the big takeaways here is use background color to test and use borders to test things out, and come back to copy and paste things out of this file, reference this file for how Flexbox works. But does this give you guys a little bit of an idea as to the way that there is a display property on all HTML elements and how Flex can be used to center those things and really quickly align them?
Mm-hmm. It's dope. Cool.
Great. And there are some other Flex properties that I'd like for you guys to do your own research on and start trying them out. There's ways to space things out evenly so that the space between each element is even, and that's really nice. And that's something we'll use on our footer in our in the Halogen app down here. So we're actually going to use Flexbox down here to space these guys out. And we're also going to use some Flexbox to center this element in the page. We're definitely going to use Flexbox to center these circles, these div circles, which are squares with a really rounded corner on them, is how you make a circle in CSS. So there's going to be a lot of Flexbox going on here. We're going to have two divs. We're going to have a big div here that contains the text. We're going to have another div next to it that contains these images, and then those will both be display flex, and we'll use these guys to get positioned as they need to. So we're going to use a lot of Flexbox when we're building this project here. So save this file, play with it, change it around, copy and paste things out as you need. There's no need to push this back up to GitHub or anything. I just want you guys to hold on to it. If you want to, you could actually come back to this and fork it and make some of those changes again and push it back up to your repository, or play around with that. I can help you with any of those things if you guys have questions. But now that we've looked at Flexbox a little bit, what we're going to do is we are going to go and look at the actual halogen project. So in Slack, I'm going to send this board. So this is the halogen project board. Sweet. Now, if you guys pull that up in your browser, go ahead and make it a folder in your bookmarks, or just bookmark this directly, but you're definitely going to want to bookmark this, and you could call this halogen board, or, you know, DevDelta open source project board. But this is going to be pretty much the home base for this project that we're working on, and moving forward, how we work on this project together. So once you guys get this pulled up, let me know, first of all, if you have access. Hopefully everything is here. Once you guys get this pulled up and bookmarked, we'll talk about it a little bit. You can actually scroll horizontally here a little bit, depending on how big this window is for you guys, but you can scroll sideways between these different columns. And on the far right, you should see something called project references. And here, I'd like you guys to open these guys in new tabs. No need, the video walkthrough is basically just this as a video. So if you want to reference that quickly, you can use that YouTube link. And then I want you to take this third one as well and open that in a new tab. And I'd like to know if you guys can access these, because if you can't access these URLs, then it is probably because you are missing an email that you haven't accepted, inviting you to these projects. So
okay. I can open them. Is that what we wanted?
Yep. Can you, as long as you can access these pages and actually see what's going on here, that's the most important part. So these two URLs, one of them is going to be specifically for development, where you can kind of zoom in on stuff and like scroll sideways and like look at how these things are laid out. And then one of them is a preview. So this one is just a preview mode. And then this one is going to allow you to actually like make comments if you want to, or look at, you know, colors and copy hex codes. And, you know, you can like click on stuff and it'll say what some of the CSS is. I don't want you guys to copy the CSS out of Adobe. I want you guys to write this from scratch, because
I would love if you guys were like, I hate the way this looks, or I like the way this looks, I want this to be different. You can actually just like click this place a pin thing, and then you can just like select somewhere and be like, you know, this sucks. Submit. Oh, and then you'd have to make the account. There you go. Well, if you want to, you can make an account. But this is going to allow you to view the assets and things like that as you need. And then this view is just a preview mode. So this is what you're really going to be referencing as we develop here. And the design isn't done, nor is it set in stone. So this will be evolving. We're going to add more stuff to it and whatnot. Sean commented. Oh, you did comment. All right. Here it comes.
Said yikes.
Oh yeah, man. Whew. You're right. That's some constructive criticism right there. All right, no.
This is really cool. Did you make this whole site, Michael?
Yeah, and this is not. I want you guys to know there's no code here. This is just Adobe XD, which is a software that allows you to like just build stuff. It's like a souped up Photoshop specifically for building things on the web. So you like build different screens, you know, and then like, you know, build components and slide things around. So this is all it is. It's just made up of pictures and, you know, it's all fake stuff. So there is no code here. This is just me drawing and dragging. So I want you guys to realize that like, this is not a website. This is just a mock-up that happens to move around. This is like a Photoshop file that moves around. So we have to build this website, and that's what you guys get to do. I'm going to try to write as little code as possible to bring this to life, because I really don't need to. Everything that we need to do here, we can do with the knowledge you guys have and will have in the near future. So cool. So you guys have those open. Now that is what you're going to be able to use over here in this project references column. You're going to have your mockups where you can look at everything. And then in the far left over here, you're going to see a column called to do, and it's going to have a bunch of tasks inside of that column. And in GitHub, they're called issues, which is kind of a weird name because not all of these are issues. Some of these are all just new things that we're going to be adding, and they have different tags like HTML, MVP. And before we talk about MVP, let's look at this. So there's different columns here. We see in progress, pending review, approved by reviewer, done. So basically what these mean is this is just the project workflow for how we're going to do this. So we're going to say, take a task. And we're going to start with this one, the create boilerplate HTML document. We're going to click on it. Now over here, you'll see a little bit more detail happen, a little detail window pop open. And you can actually click on this go to issue for full details. And if you click on this, it'll open up a new window that will give you some more detail. Code Reaper. I don't even know who this person is. Oh, this is a random dude. Okay, sweet. So somebody random said, I love to create the boilerplate. Can you assign me this? 2 days ago.
Dude, do it.
That's actually pretty sick because that's like, oh man, snap. What? How did he find this?
How did you make that open? How did you open? Oh, there we go. And then you just say go to.
Sorry, yeah, down here. Dude, yeah, amazing. I am going to assign this to him. We were going to do this together, but.
No, don't let us do it.
Okay.
I mean, I don't care. Whatever.
I will reach out to him personally and see if he's interested in doing some other stuff. Because a lot of these are beginner start. The way that this works is pretty simple and I think fun. It brings me small joy to drag these things around, but you can just like drag them into different columns and say, okay, let's say this is Sean's and let's give it to Sean. Sean, is your Git set up? Are you ready to go, bro?
Sure,
okay,
bro.
Sweet. So I'm going to click on this and it says assignees, no one assigned yet. Sean, why don't you try to do this? Click assign yourself. Yeah. Are you able to do that or do you not have permission? That cracks me up, that random.
It just says no one assigned. So you have to.
So I have to. So I'm going to hit here and I'm going to click Sean, not Code Reaper. Where are assign up to 10 people to this issue? What is your name in GitHub again?
Sione, Sione.
Oh, that doesn't make any sense. Of course. There we go. Okay, so now you have been assigned this task. Oh. I see your little boopy face pop up there. And we see some labels here. And now, Sean, what I'd like you to do is open this up. So go to issue for full details. And you have a little checklist here that is basically the acceptance criteria is a term you'll hear in the working world, which I don't even know what it means. It basically just means like what needs to be completed for the product people to accept it as done, I guess. I don't know why they call it acceptance criteria, but since hopefully you guys will all be working in the industry, we can use some of that terminology. So the acceptance criteria here is saying create a brand new index.html file and then load it up with all the basic HTML needed to be valid. Add a title element with the name halogen. That's it. That's all the story is. So this is the absolute base groundwork of getting started with the application. So the honor is yours, Sean. Oh man, the eyeballs. I love it. Okay, sweet. So what you're going to do, Sean, is we are going to kind of follow the open source model here, which is the idea of instead of cloning directly, we're going to go ahead and do forks. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and make sure you open up the base halogen repository. So I think you should be able to just open this link in a new tab. Just click on the halogen name here. There we go. And that should open this up. So all that this has is a README. I have not even added the HTML yet because that's your job right now. So what you're going to do is you're going to click fork in the top right.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Dope.
And then once you forked it, sweet. Now you have copied this repository over to your space, and you are now going to clone it down from your space. Okay. So like as soon as you click fork, it's going to say Sean McKnight / halogen rather than dev delta halogen, because this is the root, the base of everything. And now you've created your own little alternate universe over there. So now you're going to click code, you're going to click clone, go ahead and clone that down. Let me know if you're successful in cloning it.
Okay, hold up a second.
And John, if you like, once you actually get the repository cloned down and you're able to open it in VS Code, I'd love to have you share your screen, and then we can kind of go through, we can all pair program on building this basic HTML document. What do you say?
I will have to open up Zoom. Just give me a second. Let me make sure I can even grab this.
Are you on your phone?
No, I'm on my iPad.
What's a computer? Okay, guys, while Sean is doing that, we're going to talk really quick about something called trunk-based development. So what we're going to do here, what Sean is going to do, is he is going to open up this code on his fork of this repository, and he's going to make his change. He's going to add that index.html file. He's going to add the title attribute. He's going to click the little checkboxes on his story because he completed that work. He's going to add it. He's going to commit it. And then he is going to push that up. And sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. He's first going to create a branch, his own feature branch is what they call them for his work. So it's going to be called, like, Sean's first halogen story, or ideally something more specific like Sean's HTML bootstrap story. And then he's going to have his branch off of his project, and he's going to do his stuff. He's going to push it up to that branch. So his code changes will now live in his branch, right? And then what he's going to do is he's going to open a merge request to go back into the dev delta /halogen main branch. So what this basically means is like, that's a very simple model of trunk-based development, where the trunk is the main repository that will be actually deployed as a website that we can see out there. And then the branches are actual branches that we are doing work on in Git. And then we just merge those little features back into the main trunk. And one of the core pieces of trunk-based development is very small, iterable pieces that we work on here. And the benefit of the forking model with open source is that it keeps our branches clean. It keeps the dev delta /halogen repository from having a bajillion branches on it that are all gnarly or not even going to be used. And if Sean's work is poor quality, we don't want his branch polluting. But if it's good, then we can merge it in, and then that content comes back into that main branch. So really, trunk-based development is just a simple, you have your main content, you have your main repository, that main branch, and then you branch off with your feature branch. You do your work, you have a merge request back into that main one. There'll be some more things we tackle, like rebasing and dealing with some Git workflow stuff that will come up as we go, and merge conflicts. But really, at its core, that's pretty much it of what trunk-based development is. I'm going to send this to you guys. I probably should have had this diagram up while I was just talking about it. But does that concept kind of make sense? I know that Git is new. I know that we're learning this still as we go here, and I don't want this to be overly complicated or seem overly complicated, but I think trunk-based development is the simplest way to move forward. There are other Git flows, is what they call them. But Martin, I'd love your thoughts, dog.
Yeah, I think it's most commonly used in my little pea-sized career experience, and I think it's easiest to kind of start with this foundation for when you're working with a team, and kind of to understand how things generally work. Heavy air quotes around that. That's just my experience. But I think it's a good idea. Cool.
And this is actually, I like this little guy here. The scaled one is fun. I don't want to do the straight to the trunk thing, which basically means like you would commit straight back into it. I think the scaled one is the best, where you have your little feature branches, you're doing work, and then those merge back in. And I like this whole like cutting releases. That's actually good. That's a piece I missed in the explanation of it, which don't worry about that. That may seem overwhelming, a lot of work, but this is basically how it will get to the web, how it will get onto the internet. So that's a cool idea. I like it. All right, Sean, where are you at, man? Sean's gone.
Hello.
How's it going, dude?
Good. Do you want me to share my screen?
I would love it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Hi, Michael. That was my brother.
What did Sam say?
He said hi. Okay,
oh,
sorry.
Hi.
My screen's a mess right now. So you just want me to...
No,
so I pulled
no
this.
worries. You're good.
Here's halogen. I think I messed something up in here, but... because this is like way different than what I'm used to on the Mac. I had to like figure this out really quick.
Cool. No worries. So
say go on.
No, you go. You go.
No, you go.
No.
So I thought so in halogen we have the README, and then I needed to make the index HTML because that's what I need to make right now, right? The boilerplate.
Yep.
Okay.
Really quick though, did you create a branch?
No, I don't think I did. What?
I just called you a cheater. I'm kidding, just because of the auto generate. That's a nice little. I like your syntax highlighting there. Do this really quick for me,
yes.
Sean. Go ahead and create a branch. So we want to create a branch. So if you go into your terminal, sorry, go to your terminal. I got you. Go to your terminal. Now we are inside of desktop dev delta halogen. Awesome. And we see we are on the main branch. You see the little main in parentheses?
Yeesh.
Okay. So go ahead and type git status. So this will tell us where we're at. So on the main branch, you are up to date. README. Oh, I see what happened. So Sean, do you see how your index.html actually wasn't created inside of the halogen?
Yeah, I'm
directory?
realizing that.
Don't move it. Don't move it yet. This is actually ideal because we want to create a branch before we make changes. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So you currently have the main branch that you're working off of. That's our starting point that we want for sure. But we want to branch off of that. So go ahead and type git. Do you remember the syntax perchance
I have
for
no
branching?
clue.
Okay, cool. And don't worry, this is going to be something you'll remember. So go ahead and run that.
Main.
It just tells you where you are. Cool. And then if you wanted to check out a different branch, you're going to type git checkout.
That's right.
-b, which is for branch, and then space. Now you want to name, and so what we're creating now is called a feature branch, which means this branch, it contains the work for that story, that little issue that we created in GitHub. Does that make sense? So what does your story require?
My story? You know what I need to
do? The
assignment?
thing that you got assigned. Yeah, your assignment.
Yeah, I need to make the boilerplate, essentially just like the HTML, right?
Great. Yeah, so you'd want to name your branch to reflect that in a simple way.
So just like halogen index maybe, or halogen HTML.
Halogen HTML is good. I like boilerplate. Yeah, and usually you would do this with kebab case, which means dashes between your words.
Okay, halogen boilerplate.
Awesome.
Cool.
That's great.
Enter.
So now do you see how your branch changed?
Yeah.
Very cool. So now we can go. There you go. Cool. Good work. Checking out your branches. Awesome. If you do git checkout main, now type git branch. You don't even need to because it shows you, but
yeah.
Now you've switched. So now you do git checkout. And here's a little zinger. If you do git checkout and then dash, git checkout space, yep, and then just dash. So this toggles you back and forth between your previous branch. So you can just hit up arrow, enter, and it allows you to toggle back and forth, which I like a lot.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, you're on your boilerplate. Great. Now go ahead and just drag that index.html file into the halogen directory in VS Code. Bam.
Dope.
Very cool. So personally, and we're doing a little pair programming business here, but I don't know if we need this much stuff in here, especially things that we don't understand or things that we haven't learned yet. So like the HTTP equivalent meta tag, the meta name description content, we can add that later. The viewport is something we'll talk about when we start talking about mobile development and media queries. That's important for media queries. I'd like to remove it for now because since we're not going to be using it, I want this to be as simple as possible because the story, and as we move forward, when I say story, I mean assignment, task, issue. That's what a story is. The story is the little card that you moved.
You want this gone, the viewport?
Yeah, let's remove that for now. Let's remove those comments above as well, the IE.
Yeah, this is not the normal boilerplate that I was expecting, so I don't know why I did this.
You know, if you delete all of this actually, or just Command X if you want to paste it back, just in case, and then start typing HTML again, and then pause. Now, actually pause when that little menu shows up.
Yeah.
Now you can use the arrow keys to go down to 5 or just use the pointer and do HTML5 because that's actually what we're
There
using.
we go.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Perfect. So there's a couple of things I would alter here. So the laying attribute, the way that we've learned it is by giving it a region, which is with a dash. So EN dash capital US.
Dope.
Okay. And then what, is there anything else in your story that we need to make sure that we're solving? Because ideally I'd like you guys to go ahead and like look at your story and then look at the little checkboxes in it and make sure that you're completing all of the tasks inside of all of your to-dos inside of your story.
So
did you bookmark the board?
Yeah, so I made this and then I needed to add a title element with the name of halogen.
And those are interactive checkboxes. So you can actually hit that checkbox for that first one just to keep track of where you're at. I lied. I guess they're only interactive for me.
Nice.
Maybe I'll have to edit that. But I will give you a check. Good job.
Tanks.
Okay, so you created a brand new index.html and loaded it up with all the basic HTML needed to be valid. So now you need to add a title element with the name halogen. Yep.
Cool.
Great. And did you, okay, that's it. That's all you needed to do.
Dope.
Very cool. I like that a lot.
We did it, team.
Okay, so you saved that. Now what we need to do is we are on the feature branch part of trunk-based development, right? So we're on Sean's space with his feature branch work, and we are going to now need to submit a pull request to merge that back into DevDelta, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do you want to try that out, or should we step through it?
I honestly I don't think I remember because it's been so long, but I will try. So I need to make a pull request. It's something with this.
There is a way to do it. Get pull request. You could do this completely from the terminal, but I think as we're learning here, it's easiest to do this from the browser.
Okay.
Martin, do you disagree? Do you think that it's a disservice not to learn this completely from the CLI?
No, I think using the GUI is probably best at first, just to like understand like what you're actually doing visually first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I'm usually a big fan of trying to do as much in the terminal as you can without losing that knowledge, but
yeah,
almost all the companies, all the one company I've worked for, the T-Mobile Layer 3, it's very common in a real work environment just to do it through the GUI. So what you're going to do is, why don't you navigate to your branch in GitHub, right? So you're currently under developer Delta Halogen, right? Sweet. Okay. So let's see, where are we? This branch is even with Dev Delta main. Go ahead and see where it says main with the little drop-down arrow. That is showing you your branches. Now, view all branches, great. So go ahead and keep this page open. Now, we don't see your branch, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason is because we only made those changes on your local machine.
Yeah.
So your computer has those changes, but we haven't put them back up. So what do we need to do? And maybe I was stopping you too early from doing the right thing. So we need to make sure that your branch is in GitHub.
There's something in the command line, right, where we had to like, I essentially commit the changes, and I forget what that command is, but it's another git command, right, where you like tell it essentially to upload the changes. I don't remember what it is though.
So if you were by yourself and you didn't have any help here, I would say go ahead and open. And you don't need to do this; we'll go through it together. But I would say go, open the lesson on Git that we had for Git stuff, because the lesson plan will have all the steps you need to take.
Yep.
But first of all, I like to start with git status. Git status is my favorite Git command because it just tells you. It just tells you stuff. It's never unsafe to run git status. You can always run git status and it will give you information. Yeah, exactly. So from here, when you run git status, Git is going to give you a lot of pointers as to what next steps you need to take. So try to follow your steps here from what Git's telling you.
Yeah, so I need to use git add, right?
Yep.
Okay, then we'll try git status again. Cool.
Perfect.
Okay.
So do you read what you got, what output when it said git status?
Yeah, it says on branch and changes to be committed. Then it says use git restore to unstage it, but we don't want to do that, do we?
Yeah, exactly. We don't want to unstage it because that's correct. And we saw it turn green. So changes to be committed is the key part there. So what we need to do next is a commit.
Okay. Thank you for pretty much just walking me through this whole thing.
No, of course. We're learning.
Do I have to point it to the file, or is it just git commit?
No, it's just git commit. So if at this point we are, and I know in the Git lesson we did a horrible Rick and Morty example that turned out to be way overcomplicated, but so here you've used Vim in the past, right? So this is kind of familiar to you, right? It's basically like that. You just
this is just telling
everything. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, nothing. Go on.
So if you read these comments here, it actually tells you what you're doing, and then the hash signs will be ignored. So really none of the stuff you're reading here will show up in your commit message. But if you type I for insert, which you already did, and then start typing your commit message, this is where you explain what you did.
HTML boilerplate for halogen.
Awesome. Then you're going to hit escape, :WQ. Perfect. Now, if you wanted to do that in one quick command, you can do git commit -m quote. So that does the same thing. It does the same thing. Yep. So what we've done so far is we had our changes. Our changes were just on your branch, and they were just on your machine, and the branch was also only on your machine. And Git, you did not command Git to pay attention to what you were working on yet, or you didn't. Well, I guess in a sense you did, but you didn't tell Git that there were any changes that needed to go up to GitHub, right? So when you did git add, that was you saying, hey, I made some changes here. Go ahead and like keep an eye on these because these changes are going to go up to GitHub, but they had just been added to basically the scope of what Git is looking at. They hadn't been put anywhere yet. So then after you did your git add, then it said, okay, cool. Well, I know you have some files here that we need to commit. And then the committing, when you did git commit, that's when you say, okay, this is a collection of changes, and I am going to commit these into a bundle, into a box. You're basically putting all that code change into a time-stamped box that then is ready to go to GitHub. But it still hasn't gone up yet. It's just been packaged up as a collection of changes. So then, well, that's where we're at now. We have your collection of changes that you gave a name tag, a label, which is your commit message, and a timestamp for when it happened, that we can then go back and find those changes if we need them as a bundle, but we need to push them up to GitHub itself. So now it needs to go actually to the internet. So if you were to type git push, which is often the command that you would use to do this, This isn't going to work, but it's going to give us some information. So go ahead and type git push. So read this carefully.
Okay. So I just need to pretty much run that command in.
Exactly. Yep. And does it make sense what that is doing then?
Kind of. I'm assuming that it's just pushing up the new changes I made, right?
Yep. And it's doing one other thing as well. But go ahead and type that out, but don't hit enter yet. Now move your window to the left a little bit so that we can see the browser behind it. So this will help us kind of visualize what's about to happen. So the current branch, sorry, I'm going back to what it spit at, what the information it gave us. The current branch halogen dash boilerplate, which is your branch you created, it has no upstream branch. Now, what that means is basically there is no corresponding branch to this in GitHub. And that makes sense, right? Because look at GitHub, we only see main, right? So what that means is that, like, if you want to push the current branch and set the remote as upstream. So those are a couple of words that are potentially confusing. Remote and upstream. Use this command. So set the remote. Remote is basically just think about, remote being distant. Remote is far away. Remote is GitHub. Remote is on the web. Remote is, where you're pulling things from and where you're pushing things to. That's your remote. And then upstream is basically like the corresponding piece in GitHub to what you have on your machine, how they connect to each other, how they're corresponding to each other's branches, basically. So there is no upstream branch, basically, because you only made this branch on your computer. So when you type git push set upstream, that's a flag that's saying, hey, the branch I'm on right now, put this in GitHub and push this committed change onto that branch. So go ahead and run this command now. Did you cut your hair off, dude?
I think he shaved his head. I think it's just me and Colin and Martin, right? And Joseph.
Hey, Joseph's here.
We tried to give myself a quarantine haircut because no barbers are open. And
so you just shaved it?
It didn't go well, so I just cut it all off.
Wait, who messed it up? You or Emily?
Me.
That's amazing.
Okay.
I love it.
I done did it.
All right, homie. Did it work?
Hopefully.
Great. Let's refresh the page.
So
there aren't. It's just your branches and active branches. Your branch is an active branch. It's arguable they should display that differently, but that's still just one branch. So that is some dopeness. So what else did Git tell us? And I want this to be something you guys take to heart as well, is this input is very helpful. This will help when you guys are lost and you're like, I don't remember what to do. If you can remember git status, just that command, it can take you pretty far as to what you want to do when you read the output. So create a pull request for Halogen by visiting that link. Cool. So you can copy that link.
Do you want me to copy the link?
Yeah, that's what we want to do, right?
For here?
Yep. Make sure you get that bottom one as well. Just down.
Wait, what is it saying? So it's create a pull request by visiting this link, right?
Yep, exactly. So just copy that. And I don't know on Windows if this works, but you can actually hold Option, I think, and that will turn the text into an actual hyperlink in your terminal.
This one?
I don't know about Windows, but this is pure joy, though. Oh, there you go. I could watch Sean try to copy that link for an hour, though.
Yeah, well, too bad I figured it out. So
I know. Oh man. Okay. Okay. What do we see now? Let's see what we got. Compare changes across branches, commits, tags, and more below. If you need to, you can also compare across forks. So we did fork, but it looks like this is set up to go, right?
Sure.
Like what is that saying? Is that self-explanatory to you, or do we want to go over it?
Yeah. No, it's good. But we can't do Sorry, my child's being very loud.
Oh, dude, you are good. Okay, base repository, div delta halogen, base main, head repository, compare halogen boilerplate. Okay, so that is good. Oh, wait, actually, yeah, when you click on the compare again, go down and down to halogen boilerplate, click on that. Because that's the branch we want. Okay, there we go. So for some reason, it had your other branch. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So now you could even add a comment in there and say, hey, Sean, here, I completed this. I mean, I would say let's add it in there just for learning's sake, but you don't need to because it's so self-explanatory. So yeah, just put this in there. I completed this, something. Perfect. Cool.
Ish.
Create pull request. Yep, exactly. So this is really cool because what we have done here is this is open source software contribution. Like you were able to duplicate this entire repository, and honestly, Code Reaper 08 could have done this as well. It doesn't matter. So anybody in the world could do this, where you were able to duplicate the repository, and then you were able to make changes on a branch and then said, cool, I feel like I improved this code base. I'm going to open up a pull request to go back into the actual repository itself. And you did all of this without being destructive to my code at all. So,
which is sick.
You know, yeah, exactly. So this repository, Halogen, exists on its own, untouched by you. But I have, as a maintainer, the opportunity to say, wow, cool, this Sean guy really improved this. I love what he did. Or if maybe you had a syntax error or a mistake, I can now go into GitHub and comment on this and say, cool, thanks for submitting a pull request. I'd like it if you formatted your code in this way. If you mind making that change, I'll then merge it in. Then you make your change, then I would actually merge that pull request in, and your code would become a part of this. And then it would truly be an open source contribution, which we're going to do. So I'm going to take over and share again.
Yes, please.
And we are going to look at what we got on our side.
Stop the share.
So you can also, if you want to switch GitHub into dark mode, you can, because it's sick.
Yeah, it's pretty dope.
Okay, so I'm going to go to pull requests over here, and we're going to take a gander. So we have our very first Halogen pull request. Sick. Okay, so I'm going to take a look at this, opened by Sean. Now let's take a gander. I would love for all of you guys to open up this pull request. If everybody should have access to this. So if you're in the Dev Delta Halogen space, you should be able to click on pull requests and see all the pull requests that are going on. So this is what the flow would look like in a real company, or a flow in a real company, where Sean would basically say, I created this pull request. And then Sean, what you would do is you would go ahead and you would copy this URL. So open up the pull request on your browser. I think you already had it open, and copy the URL. Then you're going to go into Slack, and we are actually going to create a new channel here. And this channel is going to be called pull requests.
Hazel, don't touch that.
Hazel, don't touch that. A place for code review. Okay, I'm going to add you, Sean. Everybody will eventually get added to this channel.
What's it called?
This is kind of annoying. It's just called pull requests. I already added you to it. But what you're going to do is you're going to paste in your pull request, and then, yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's all you need to do. You just put your pull request in there. So this is cool. So now everybody's a part of this channel in Slack. You put your pull request in there, and this is not about me just looking at it and saying it's good and merging it in. This is about us learning from each other. This is about us contributing, putting in our pull requests. And this is like, I want more than anything to have Colin or Joseph or Martin come in and find an improvement or learn from something you did, and make a comment and read this code. And then we actually will be working as a team, not just me telling you what to do. So we'll use this space, and I'll make sure to add everybody in here. See if you guys, Martin, Colin, and Joseph, if you guys can join this without me inviting you. Do that. I don't know why, but so we can use that space. People can find pull requests easily. We can come in here and say, okay, cool. Sean did some work. Sean says he completed this. I see that. Okay, so no new line. So this is cool. So I can actually see what it was before. It didn't exist, and what it is now. Awesome. I really like that. So I'm going to be a jerk and, oh wait, no, that is perfect. That's not nested inside of that. So this is great, but I'm going to say, good work. I think design-wise, we want to keep the halogen name all lowercase. Do you think the title should be lowercase too? And then I could say, you know, oh, and I'm basing that off of this because like, this is lowercase. So then I could take this screenshot. Oop. Come over here. Drop that in there. Add a single comment. Now, Sean, you should be getting some kind of notification that we had some conversation here, right? So everything looks good to me, except for this. So, and I let you make this mistake because I wanted to do this on purpose. And this is not a mistake, but this is a conversation we can have as well. But I just say, hey, design-wise, I think the name is all lowercase normally. Do you think that the title should be that way as well, or is that okay? And this is not a hard and fast set in stone. You can just reply to us and say, that's stupid. I think the lowercase name convention is super 2005 and I'm over it. And we should keep it uppercase. And then we just you know, move forward, decide what we want to do. So you could make that change. You could say, no, I like it as is. And I could take that and be like, okay, I think that's fine. We'll go ahead and merge it in. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Just the process here that this is where the magic happens, is that in pull review and code review. And once we get a little further and we're working on more complex issues, a lot of our classes are just going to be code review and say, okay, Colin completed a feature that is really cool and was pretty complicated. And there's a lot of things going on here. So as a class, we're going to actually do code review on it. And we will read through pull requests together and learn and grow and make changes and get stuff done and merged in, which is great. So Sean, good job. For the sake of, you haven't started making that change yet, have you?
No.
Okay, so for the sake of actually getting things moving, I'm going to go ahead and merge this in. We can change that later or not change it, what you guys want to do. So good job, Sean. Nice body. So here, now Colin is contributing to the conversation. Sean says, good idea, heart. I'm going to resolve this, say, that's cool, that's cool. And it gives you, there's a lot of feature-rich stuff going on given to us from GitHub here, where you can, you know, say conversations are good. You can, you know, say, you can request changes. You can specifically suggest changes that can then be applied directly from GitHub. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do. So what we would do here is, let's see, how can I just approve this? Martin, do you know how you can just approve a pull request rather than just merge it?
Check the drop down arrow on merge pull request. Oh, I guess there's only options in there. I don't use GitHub that much for like actual.
Neither do I.
Day-to-day stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
Is it not at the top? No.
If you see it, I might be missing it. Because the weird thing is that we have these like preventions in here where these like will automatically. So we've automated these columns. So like I feel like this should. Oh, I think we need to link. Oh, cool. Yeah, we need to do this. There we go. Sweet.
Oh, right.
So this should be.
If you go to files changed, you should be able to approve it. Yeah.
Okay.
You go to the pull request, go to files change, and then the drop down on the right, review changes.
Oh, sweet. And I can say viewed. Okay, no, that's nice.
And then approve is down at the bottom.
Oh, that's sick. That didn't, oh, come on. There we go. 100. Approve, submit review. Great. Sweet. So then changes are approved now. So Sean, I think you should have permission to merge this now that I have approved it. Is that true?
Yeah, I believe so.
Dopey danky.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
How do I check that again?
Just go to the pull request itself. So under dev delta halogen pull request.
Mm-hmm.
And then click on your created HTML boilerplate for halogen. And then at the bottom where it says changes approved, do you see that now?
Yeah, it says changes approved.
And then
this branch is no conflict with the base branch, and the only thing it says I can close the pull request, and that's about it.
That's kind of weird that it doesn't. I feel like it should allow you to merge it after it's been
says
approved.
only those
that
with
might
right
be
access.
Setting.
So I think that I just don't have the permissions to.
Okay. Maybe I need to add you. I can probably add you as a contributor, which I will definitely do later for everybody. So I'm gonna go ahead and merge it. Create additional confirm merge. Awesome. So I'm merging that in. So did anybody else fork or clone this repository yet?
I have.
You have? Okay. So now where we're at is your code is behind because you don't have Sean's changes. So if we go into Halogen now, we see that we actually have our index.html. There's been a code change on the main branch. So main has actually had that happen. So your branch doesn't have this. So we need to get your branch up to speed, Colin, right? And Joseph, if you've done the same, or Martin, if you've done the same. Oh, Joseph, there you go, in pull request. Nope. So, and I actually was having this conversation with these guys. So what this boils down to is, and Colin, this is the same exact issue we had before, is that if you run a git pull, can you go ahead and run a git pull and see what you get? I can do the same thing because I haven't done that yet either, but.
Already up to date.
Okay, so that makes sense because
you merged it. So should we have? I'm just curious. So as far as branches go, I only see the main branch, and that's how it should be, right? In the
yeah, I think that's fine. I'm pretty sure that it's set to delete the feature branch once it's been merged into main, which is I think it's nice. It keeps it from having a bunch of ugly branches hanging around.
That's nice. Yeah,
I believe that's how it was set up. I'll double check that later. But so I was able to pull down Sean's index.html because I am not on a fork of it. I am on the primary one. But Colin, if you pull it, you probably don't see index.html in your code at all, right? Like if you do an ls, you don't see that. And the reason is because you're pulling from your fork of it, not from the original. So what we need to do for you then is we need you to basically create a pointer in Git that says, hey, like I want to be able to update my fork with the actual changes from the primary dev delta repository. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Colin, this is exactly the problem that we had before. So I think the answer here is adding the upstream remote, which is what we looked at before. So if we do these two things, actually, there's 4 things here. So you would do git remote add, and then just type upstream, git remote add upstream, and then paste in just the URL to dev delta halogen. So if you actually copy the I don't think you want the .git. I think you just actually take the URL itself. So take the URL from the bar here, just copy that, the github.com/devdelta/halogen. And then in your terminal, you will type git remote, what was it, set?
Git remote add upstream.
And then space, drop that in there.
Okay.
Then type git fetch upstream, and I'm curious what you'll get. Very cool. So if you do git log, do git log. Okay, no, those are all my commits. So Q. Now do a. Oh, I see what we have. Okay, do git branch. Okay, then Q. What does this guy do? Oh, I see. I think I see. Okay. Just do git merge upstream /main. Ooh, now do a git log. Or sorry, not a, yeah, git log, yep. So now you have the Sean's actual commit right there. And then we have then we have the merge commit. So basically this creates two specific commits that we can go back to. So the first one is the actual changes. And then the next one is like the point in time we decided to merge it into the main branch. So dope. So now you can hit Q to get out of there. And now you have Sean's work, and this is on your fork, right?
Yep.
So like if you did a git push, do git push really quick. This should push to your fork as well.
Remind me again, why do we fork and we just don't make branches off the main dev delta one?
So the main reason that I want to do it this way, and this is not something we have to do as well, but I was just thinking we would do it this way because this is the open source model.
Okay.
Like open source is usually built around forking.
Right.
And one of the benefits of that we talked about before is like cleanliness of branches and pull requests, because then the changes are happening in somebody else's own dev space. Because like I said, like true open source, we want this to be something in the future that literally anyone can come in, fork it, make changes, push up a branch, and then submit a pull request, you know? So if somebody like completely overhauled the entire app and it kind of undermined the learning aspect to it, I'm never going to merge that pull request in, and I don't want it polluting the space at all. Okay. So because it was a fork, then it allows people to make changes like that. And if that dude's like, well, fine, screw you, I'm just going to make my own. It's open source. That's what it's for. He can just push his fork up onto a different website and change it completely, you know?
Gotcha.
So
cool.
Forking gives you that ability, but it prevents the primary space from getting polluted if you don't want it to. If a maintainer decides that something shouldn't be merged in, then those changes aren't even visible really. Like they're not even really going to show up to most people. You can just close the pull request and it'll never pollute anything. Whereas if we were all just working off the main branch, then we have to make sure we add everybody who wants to contribute as a contributor. Otherwise, no one else will be able to really do anything with it. And then that kind of negates the open source.
I don't know how accurate this is, but aren't branches also usually like tied to a release? So when they do like a release, they might just say like, take this branch, or they have an actual release area where it's like a zip file, and it might have even like binaries compiled in the main project. Yeah. Versus like if you had hundreds of people working on it and there's just like hundreds of branches everywhere in the main project, it would like kind of get messy over the long term.
Yeah.
I think that makes total sense. Yeah.
I think that's totally right. And I also am learning some of this as we go. So the whole forking method, the whole forking flow is different than what I normally work in.